What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode 214 of Standing Out, a podcast about sales, marketing, and leadership, powered by Beta Consulting Group, of which I am the founder and CEO, Trey Griggs, and the host today. Thank you so much for being a part of the show. And listen, we've had a busy week. So before we get this show started off, I have to tell you, you got to go back and check out some of the stuff we've done this week. We had a great show on Tuesday with Brian Smith of Banyan Technologies. We got to hear about what they are doing in the industry. They've been around for a long time doing some great work. And so go back and check out that podcast. But also, not only that, but we had yesterday the episode 1 of a new series that we're doing called The Edge. And we had a great time talking to Kevin Coombs. You can find that on demand here on LinkedIn as well as on YouTube and other places like that. We're pulling back the curtain and showcasing the latest in logistics technology. It was a great time of Q&A, a lot of great information there. So go back and check that out. We're going to do another one in April. We've already got it lined up with our friends over at Highway. Going to have Michael Caney on the show, Chief Commercial Officer. We're going to be talking about what they are doing around carrier identity in the industry. So a lot of great things coming up in that regard. And then most importantly this week is tomorrow. You know, it's Friday. It's Finish Strong Friday. We have a special episode of The Word on the Street tomorrow. It is Ladies' Day. We'll call it Ladies' Day because it's not really night, although it is 5 o'clock somewhere. But it's going to be Ladies' Day tomorrow on The Word on the Street. Our good friend Jennifer Carpenter-Romaine is going to be hosting that event with some incredible ladies in the industry. And you're not going to want to miss that because it's just awesome. And if you are a dude, listen, hey, do me a favor, block off time on your calendar for noon Central tomorrow and tune in and watch the ladies and support them. So excited to hear what they're going to be talking about. They got a great agenda and Jennifer's a lot of fun. So let's go, girls, is what it's all about. So we're going to have a great time tomorrow. Again, noon Central tomorrow, Word on the Street, Ladies' Day. It's going to be a lot of fun. All right, today's guest, I'm really excited to have this guy on the show. I got to meet him last fall. And when I met him, man, talk about just a guy who's super witty, is really, really smart, knows a lot, has a really cool product, doing some cool things in the space and logistics technology. So everybody give it up for our good friend from Kestral Insights, my man, Lucas Schorer. What's up, Lucas? How you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. Good to see you. Good to hear some Billy Strings playing me in, man. I love it.
Hey, somebody might be wondering why this song, and I think it's got to have something to do with where you're currently located up in beautiful, the mountains and the hills up there in Montana. Man, great song.
Yeah, it's pretty hard to get away from bluegrass anywhere in the Rocky Mountain West. So, it chases me everywhere I go, and nothing gets you excited like little Billy Strings. So I figured the audience would love it.
That's awesome. We know what's funny is I have some experience with bluegrass. Obviously, I play guitar, and when I was in Portland, Oregon, one of the guys in my church wanted to put together a bluegrass band, and he needed a guitar player, and that's like the easiest thing to play in a bluegrass because it's just bounce to bounce, bounce to bounce, bounce to bounce. So, got to do that for a while. I got to learn a lot of bluegrass songs and became a fan of the genre. So, great to hear that song today. It's great to see you, man. Take a moment and tell everybody just a little bit about who you are and about what you guys are doing over at Kestral.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my name's Lucas Schorer, and co-founder of Kestral Insights, and we're a data company. We primarily focus on geofences, and our goal with geofences, we didn't invent geofencing. We're just kind of looking at it a different way, and our goal is to bring a different level of confidence and trust to how people are using geofences, the reports they're kicking out, the analytics, the business decisions they're basing on geofences. And we can kind of talk about how it was done and how we're changing it, but that's really our goal. Bring a better geofencing data product to the market for everyone who's using it in all kinds of cool ways in the space.
A very sexy topic in transportation, no doubt.
Of course, sure. Nailed it. So
I'm sure that messaging and kind of like getting that out has always been a challenge. But before we dig into that just a little bit, I want to step back and talk about your journey just a little bit and how, what led you to Kestral. Talk a little bit about your experience and then how you got to this place where you decided to, start this data company to really focus on geofences and solve a problem that many people don't know about unless they're actually in that seat, working with carriers and working on shipments that are delivered every day. So go ahead and talk a little about your journey. What led you to this?
Yeah, it's your question. I was just talking with Jeff Booth and the team over at OpenDoc, and he knows me pretty well. And he knows I don't have this huge background in transportation. He's like, how'd you end up here? And it always is kind of felt like a very logical endpoint. I do well with things I can picture, things I can see, and the movement of freight and transportation. It's a very visual thing for me. And so I really enjoyed being in the space. But our team and our founding team, we had a data background and had experience with the way data could really power software tools, whether it was in agriculture, transportation, logistics, and things like that. And what we saw was, this transportation logistics, we hear this digital transformation word all the time, and that was just
Right.
everywhere. And there were all these incredible software tools out there. So we knew we didn't want to do another software play, but we had success in the past with where data products could really expand what a lot of these software tools were working on and bring added value and help them optimize even more of what they're doing. So the really interesting thing around geofencing was we were talking to a team, and for those who don't know, a geofence, it's just a virtual boundary anywhere on Earth. And you can draw it around anything. And what we specifically focus on in transportation are shipper facilities, distribution centers, airports, seaports, border crossings, anywhere in the supply chain where you want to know when something got there, how long it was there for, and when it left. And so the way that this team that we talked to was doing this was they were literally had a team of 7 or 8 interns. They were on Google Maps, and they had been for 3 or 4 months just typing in an address, drawing a polygon, literally clicking around and drawing a shape. And this guy was at his wit's end. He's like, Lucas, it's been however many months. I'm only about 60% of the way through. This is insane. And so it's that cliche light bulb moment of, oh, there's got to be a better way. And so we kind of started diving into it. And that's what led us to Kestral Insights and where we're at today.
Well, and what got me on that was, when you think about geofences, oftentimes you just think about a circle, just a
Yeah.
360-degree circle. Maybe it's a 2-mile radius, maybe it's a half-mile radius, 5, whatever it is. We think of just circles, but when you think about actual
Mhm.
properties, I mean, how many properties are even in the shape of a circle? In fact, hardly any of them. Most of them are either
Yeah.
rectangular or square, or are odd shaped, like really, really odd shaped. And that creates problems when you have a carrier going into a geofence, coming out of a geofence, and then it changes updates and delivery and all the different data that goes along with it. It can be a real
Yeah.
problem. So people were doing this by hand, is what you're saying, and taking forever to get it done. And now you guys have tried to centralize that problem a little bit, correct?
Yeah, yeah, pretty much spot on. So yeah, the only way to automate it before was, we've all done this on Google Maps. You type in an address and it drops a red pin. You can basically do that same process, but on automate the size of a radius that's drawn around that point. So yeah, you said draw a bunch of circles, and unless you're geofencing a crop circle in Kansas, it's probably not a perfect circle. And so what we saw was to make sure you encapsulate the needed area, you make the circles bigger and bigger and bigger until you get everything that you want. And so what ends up happening is a lot of wasted space. And the best use case we ever saw with this team was they had a Home Depot, and I can't remember the address off the top of my head, but kitty corner from that Home Depot was a Love's travel stop. So not 100 feet away was a Love's travel stop. So they had made their circles so big to cover this massive distribution center that Home Depot was now inside. And so they're getting these insane detention reports. They have no idea what's going on. And they're trying to base not only these analytical reports off of these geofences, but they're trying to build automation. So they're trying to like auto check in customers and do auto arrival stuff. And that automation starts to break down when your geofences are so inaccurate that the timestamps are wrong. And so what we saw was just by breaking that down to the actual polygon, you cut out all that wasted space and you just have a truer look at really what's going on.
Yeah, again, it's one of those problems that unless you're in that seat and you're doing carrier updates, or you're at a shipper dock or something like that, and you're seeing that, you don't even realize that it exists. It's kind of an underground problem. You had the
Yeah.
chance to talk about this at Technovations at TIA on Shark Tank. First of all, what's that experience like being up on stage and having an organization like TIA embrace some of these newer technologies that are just getting started, maybe don't have all the funding or the money to spend on type sponsorship type stuff? What was it like in the experience up there?
Oh, it's phenomenal. Well, first thing, when I saw your intro here, it makes more sense why you were making me do push-ups and boxing and run around my house, because I'm like, okay, this makes a lot more sense to what this guy's inspired by. But I mean, the
I
whole
don't ask
process
people to do
of
anything that I don't do myself. Let's just say that.
fair, fair. Yeah. For those who don't know, we did a really fun intro video, and Trey had us doing all these cool
It's a
things
great
and like
promo. It was a lot of
contestants.
fun.
It was a good promo,
You
but
clearly you clearly participated at the highest level of anyone else.
love the
Only just
always,
slightly ahead
always
of
good
Jordan.
participation awards.
That's right.
But yeah, the experience overall was phenomenal because, like you said, small company, and for the chance to get in front of all those people and explain our story, explain what we do, was huge because, like you touched on, sometimes trying to convey our value proposition in geofencing for teams who aren't on the ground with the geofencing inside their companies is often kind of a difficult proposition, and unless they really had those touch points. So it was great to be able to do that. It was a cool format of not only presenting, but you can sit there and watch demo after demo after demo. But to have the team on stage who can critique you a little bit, put you on the spot, and they weren't there to any gotcha questions, but they were there to probably ask questions that maybe people in the audience had. And so it gives you a chance to kind of engage and have a conversation. So yeah, it was a wonderful experience, and tons of people reached out after it, just even curious about what we're doing, wanting to learn more. So yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and unfortunately, you didn't come away with the prize this time around, but
No.
you handled the questions really well. And then afterwards, of course, we did a little because we had to have a little fun with it. We did a little post game press conference,
Yeah.
kind of like some of the spiffs that they do on SEC football or something like that. Really enjoy that. Take a watch real quick. This is what we end up with here.
Well, it was a tough one, but a W's a W, and we'll take the win. It really came down to the 2-minute warning.
Before you answer any questions, I just want to highlight, I thought we played well. We lost at the end there, but we got a lot of visibility, which was good. The judges were tough. Really threw a lot at us there, but I think we were prepared.
Man, it's been a long day. We had a fire alarm go off at 2 a.m. last night, and that was a lot of fun trying to get sleep around that. A lot of Red Bull this morning to have the energy. Thought we came out, had good energy today. And presentation went off, had a few things we kind of missed. Question there about, how we prevent new entrants, and we didn't bring up the patent we were working on, so wasn't really pleased with that. But you know what? We had a good day. We'll come back better. And
drop the ticker is always a concern. I'm actually a super clumsy person.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a concern every day in my life, and no one has any idea what I do. But I think there's a lot of good technology platforms out there that hopefully we landed with. We want to create some FOMO in the brokers' minds. Like, hey, if we're drawing geofences, we need to really kick our technology platforms and get them moving. So that was the approach. I think that didn't land in the end with the judges, but I think we made a lot of connections behind the scenes.
It felt great, a lot of friends out there, a lot of family, brought all my family here to kind of, pad the vote. So, we had some inside baseball going on out there.
Now that was a good time. We had a lot of fun, and
Man,
I
too
really
much fun.
felt like you stole the show there. You were, I think, the most candid, and certainly if you didn't win, for the Shark Tank, I think you won the post game press conference.
Yeah, well, I appreciate it, man. I had a clean shave, fresh haircut. I gotta get back on that.
Yeah, you clean up nicely, man. It went well. Yeah, I think that we talked about Kestral and what you're doing. I think the challenge is because it's a problem that a lot of people don't understand about, and because your platform is not actually a platform. Like your solution is not actually a user interface that the customer would use. It's a data set. It's a database that they would utilize.
Exactly.
How do you overcome some of that, maybe the challenges or just the difficulty of really helping prospects understand what you do?
Yeah, it's a good question because it's kind of an atypical sales process in the way you look at ROI and the way you look at value proposition, because our geofences they're useless by themselves. I can't just give a geofence to someone and they're like, okay, cool, now I can track my trucks. We have to have those partnerships with logistics tech platforms and things like that. So relationships are huge for us. Partnerships are huge for us because they're everything we need to be viable. And kind of being that infrastructure partner has been an interesting play because the ROI is sometimes direct to our customers. We have a lot of customers, some of our earliest adopters who came to us because they're like, we're doing this and we know exactly what this is, because they saw the value in polygon geofencing and they had teams inside their companies drawing polygons. So those people knew exactly what this could do for them. And then the other teams, we just launched a great partnership with Motive. We're in their marketplace now, where that more benefits their end user. So it's a user experience thing for them and value where they're adding for their end user, but the value almost comes directly from the end user. And so sometimes being second removed from the ROI is a longer conversation and more in-depth use cases to look at. So it's just a patience thing, but I think as people, kind of get that flywheel spinning and more people start using it, I think the use cases really start coming out. But yeah, it is a little bit of a different process than normal.
I can imagine you're saving a freight broker or a carrier time in order to provide a better user experience to their customer is essentially the pitch. And that's a really challenging kind of place to be in regards to doing that. And I'm thinking in my head, like, what must it be like to sit down at a job and they say, okay, you're just going to draw geofences all day? Like how mindless and like boring,
Oh,
unless maybe if you're a math major and you're really into geometry, maybe. But outside of
yeah.
that, I can't imagine too many people are super thrilled about that job. So,
Yeah, and what we've seen a lot of times too is no one comes to the job of like, all right, you are, geofence, QA, QC, and production. Like it usually ends up falling on someone who's like most maybe closest to the project that is needs it, or closest to the reports that they're kicking out. And one of our earliest customers, they're like, yeah, we're doing polygon geofences. But the problem with us, Lucas, is we didn't have a spot for this. And so our engineering team, they're the ones who were building this into some new products. So it fell on their lap. And I was like, wait. Let's cut out all the buzzwords there. You're paying software engineers to draw shapes on a map. And they were like, yeah, I guess it comes down to that. I was like, and their hourly rate is, and
right.
they're like, yeah, this is absurd. So yeah, it often falls on teams who shouldn't be doing it, don't want to be doing it. And it's not it's also not a static data set where both the locations are changing, businesses are moving, property boundaries are changing. We have a really solid data set around seaport container terminals all over the world. And we push out monthly updates because the boundaries are always expanding. New locations are coming on board. So not only does that software engineer have to draw it once, but then they're like, wait, this isn't ending. Like we have more locations coming on board, new customers. So it's an ongoing maintenance process too that teams also don't think about.
Yeah, I mean, in some ways, it's static in the sense that once you've done it one time, the foundation is set, right? You're keeping 20 people from having to do the same boundary multiple times, so that's huge. But then
Yeah.
the fact that people could buy another lot, they could expand their property, or they could build more parking space, or build a new facility next door, and it could change the dynamics. Also helps because if you have those 20 people, and not all 20 might know about that. And
Yeah.
so the fact that you guys know about it, you can centralize the changes as well. Again, I think what you're doing is a huge value add, and just the idea that programmers are drawing geofences on maps is it's almost unbearable to think about
Yeah.
that. So they might
Yeah.
not last very long at that job if that's what they're doing is just drawing geofences.
No.
I can't
No,
imagine.
they didn't go to school to do that. So absolutely.
All right, Lucas, we got to pause for a minute. Every day on the show, we like to have a lot of fun, as you can tell. And so one of the things we do is we celebrate the national day. So we had President's Day recently. We've got Easter coming up in a little bit. There's St. Patrick's Day in a couple of weeks, so on and so forth. Do you know what today's national day is? You've been reading up?
Ooh, I don't. I was going to cheat and
Some
try
of
and
them are
look real quick
goofy.
when you said that, but I don't know.
Some of them are goofy. Some of them are great. They're kind of weird. But today's national day is National Read Across America Day. So we're going Scholastic Book Club Day, apparently, and Read Across
Love it.
America Day. Are you a reader of books, a traditional reader of books? Do you like a book? Do you like an audio book, a podcast? How do you get your information?
Gosh, that's interesting. I was not a reader growing up. It was funny. My parents had to try and put a book on my lap every time they could, and my little sister, they had to pull books away from her because she wouldn't go to sleep at night. So that gene skipped me. But I think once I got out of high school and out of college, I definitely started reading for leisure more and more. Love audiobooks. Up in Montana's a big state. I do a lot of bird hunting in the fall with my dog, and we're driving long distance. So love audiobooks for that. But I think I'm pretty spread out around all kind of mediums, I'd say.
Yeah, that's good. Well, it counts because you're digesting the information. It's just the way that you probably learn better. Audio or video might be your suit as opposed to sitting down reading a book. I'm kind of weird in that regard, in that I don't really like listening to audiobooks or podcasts because I feel like it's in one ear out the other. Like I don't think I have time to process it. And so, especially if it's not for fun, like if it's a Harry Potter book, you just read through it, no big deal, whatever. But if I'm like reading about something that's going to make me better, or something I can learn about leadership or business, I feel like I need to take a pen and like write in the margin and process it. And so I tend to actually read physical books when it's something of knowledge or like learning. And I'll read books without, like I could do an audiobook of a Harry Potter because it's just entertainment. So I kind of,
no, I totally agree. It's nice to have the ability to go back. Like if you're like reading through sometimes technical aspects and you're like, okay, I did once through, let me go back and re-listen to that instead of like trying to pull out your phone and scroll or do that. So I agree. For more technical or career focused things, I like the hard text for sure.
Now you're a little bit younger than I am. I'm not going to ask your age, but I know you're younger than me. Did you have Scholastic book fairs when you were growing up? They
I'm
still
so
have
glad
that?
you asked me that because I wanted to make a comment about that. Yeah, I was still the age where you had the book fairs. You'd go in and you'd spend all your money on the posters. You're not buying the books, but you get the cool
Right.
car poster or something else, or like a book cover or something. Yeah, I definitely had book fairs, and it's so funny. You know, you see those memes on Instagram and stuff. And had to tell that you're an '80s or a '90s kid, and it's so funny, the book fair. So yeah, absolutely, I remember those.
Yep. I remember that. I think I bought a big stuffed animal of Clifford, the big red dog, and that was more important to me than the book. I
Yeah, no
wanted
one's
stuff like,
bought
the
books at book fairs.
posters, the stuffed animals, maybe a book here and there. I don't know, but
Yeah,
I guess it was all a little bit different. Your sister probably bought all the books she could and spent
yeah,
her year's worth of allowance on books at this
yeah,
classic book fair,
absolutely.
but don't see those too many more. All right. The other thing we like to do is a random question of the day. Now, Lucas, listen, this question is so random. I haven't seen it yet. We let our producers come up with this. It's a little risky.
Ooh,
Let our producers come
like
up with
it.
this every day. Sometimes they're funny, sometimes they're serious, sometimes the questions are really good, sometimes they're duds. I don't know. Let's go ahead and spin the wheel and see what is today's random question of the day. All right. What does it say? What is your family's most? I missed it. Did you read it?
Yeah, most favorite family tradition.
Favorite family
Most
tradition.
favorite
All
family
right.
tradition.
Well,
Yeah,
that's a good one. You got one?
and that is a good one. You know, when I was living, so I'm one of three. I got an older brother and a younger sister, and obviously when I was
Oh, you're right
home,
in the
you
middle
know,
with an
much.
older brother. Oh, that's
Yep, I'm right
trouble
in the
right
middle.
there. That's trouble.
I'm right in the middle, so nothing's fair. Everyone's out to get me. So um, I'm trying to like when I was growing up, you know, much better traditions. You know, things around the holidays and stuff like that. I'm trying to think. I'd say, you know, it's kind of dissipated again since we've kind of moved away. So I'm in Montana, sister's in Salt Lake, my brother's actually in Manhattan. But we used to go to this lake house up in this place called Lake Almanor, Northern California, and we did it for I think 19 years in a row, and it was pretty fun. And it was this family friend that my dad worked with who had a house up there and would let us rent it every single year. And it got to the point where we were so used to it, we felt like it was our house. And so when their family actually expanded, their kids started having kids, they're like, hey, you know, I think we're going to stop renting it. And we were like, what? We were like almost offended. We're like, how dare you keep us from coming to our house? But it just showed how ingrained it was in our family in our summer every year. So I said that was a pretty good one for us.
Yeah, that does sound like a good tradition, especially when you get to go away to someone else's place to kind of hang out. When I was growing up, every Thanksgiving, the Friday after Thanksgiving, we would go and cut down our Christmas tree. And it was
Mm.
just like on the regular. It's what we do. I grew up in Kansas City. We drive to Warrensburg, which was about 45, 50 minutes away. When I was a kid, it seemed like a long trip, but 45, 50 minutes away. We'd go cut down the tree at Jewel Tree Farm. I still have ornaments for our tree now that says Jewel Tree Farm, which is pretty cool because I haven't been there in 30 years. But we go
Yeah.
there and then we go to Country Kitchen and we get like a breakfast for lunch, which was always kind of a special thing, a special treat to eat out, first of all, but then to get breakfast for lunch. And I just remember that, like really looking forward to that every year. That was a special tradition. And now with my kids, not a Christmas tradition, but our tradition is every year we go to the Indianapolis 500. My
Oh, you
daughter is
do?
like massively into Indy 500 racing, loves
That's
it.
cool.
And so that's become our tradition as Memorial Day weekend. We go to the Indy 500 over in Indy, which is 4 hour drive, not too far away. But
Oh man.
we have a great time. In fact, I'll show you this real quick. So my dad was a big Indy fan. He passed away 18 years ago. But every year for my birthday, my mom now gets me the 1/16th die cast of the winning car. So this is Marcus Ericsson's car from last year. I just got it yesterday because my birthday is this month.
Whoa.
And so I'm pretty stoked. I've been kind of, geeking out over that, but it's kind of become our thing is to go to Indy. And so
That's
a
pretty
new tradition
cool.
that we have. Yeah. So nice to kind of find those in your family, what works, what
Yeah.
we want to do. And that's become a big one for us. That's for sure. So that was a good question. Good question. Family
Yeah, I
tradition.
like that one. I like that one.
Yeah.
And hopefully, my wife and I, we actually just got married last year. No kids yet, but
Oh,
hopefully we can start.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, hopefully we can
When
start
is your
doing some.
anniversary? Let me quiz you just to make sure you're good.
Yeah,
When's the
yeah,
anniversary?
July 23rd.
All right, good. Make sure it's
Yeah.
on your calendar with a notification a couple days early.
Yeah, yeah. So hopefully we can start our own family traditions and stuff like that. So it'll be fun.
That's cool. That's awesome. All right, so I want to ask you a question real quick about you're getting started. You're starting to do sales and marketing, and this as a founder, and I know what that's like, founder led sales. It's not easy. But you're doing that. You're also starting some marketing initiatives. You've gone to a couple of trade shows and events. I want to talk to you specifically about your trade show and event strategy. As a
Yeah.
startup, how do you really evaluate what you're going to go to, what you're going to sponsor or exhibit and spend money? Because those are some really precious resources right now as you get started. But it's also important to get out there, get your brand out there, your name out there, create a lot of education, especially around your product, to make sure there's no
Mhm.
confusion about exactly what you do. How do you think about that from a trade show and an event strategy?
Yeah. It's an interesting idea because when we first got started, I wasn't even thinking about it. It was like, hey, we're just trying to prove, just the conceptually that people want this, people will pay for it. And then once we got to the point where like, hey, this is something we can and should start doing. It was funny. Our founding team is kind of split where one of our founders was like, I hate trade shows. I never go, don't go. And then another one was like, you got to go. You got to get your name out there. Let's find like a happy medium where you're not going to every trade show, for a month and just burning yourself out, but you're strategically picking a few that makes sense. So we kind of fell in the middle there, and they've been so valuable. I think some of the things that we've learned are, yeah, do the research on kind of who's going to be there, because we haven't really been looking to exhibit, more so connect with prospective customers and just talk with people who are kind of our customer segments. And so we've gone to one or two where we kind of missed the mark on that, where it wasn't as dense of a customer focus as we would have liked. Still met some great people, and there were choice people there that we wanted to go to. But then we've been to some like TA, and I wish I had gone to Manifest this year in Vegas. But those
Yeah, that
ones
show
were
was
like
great. Yeah,
everyone's there, and everyone, at least for us, everyone's there that we want to be talking to, we want
right.
to be in front of. So I think that's the biggest thing. And then work beforehand, setting up meetings beforehand, telling people you're going to be there. And we really got started in COVID, so it was 2 or 3 years before I even had a chance to meet anyone in person. And so just making those connections are huge, and I think they're undervalued. And so many of these conferences are so good about. I've always reached out to like, hey, young company startup, can you get me a discount ticket or something like that? I've never had anyone ever say no. They're always like, yeah, no problem. If you just, I'm like, it's just 1 or 2 of us coming. They're like, absolutely, come on board. So that's kind of been our strategy for it all.
Yeah, I think it's a great strategy because anytime you start a company, I think the most foundational element that you have to have is networking, the ability to connect with people
Yeah.
and to talk and get to know people. And so going to those events, I love the fact that you guys are not exhibiting yet. If I was consulting you, I'd say that like, hey, save your money because once
Yeah.
you exhibit, you kind of have to keep exhibiting too, because people might come back the next year and be like, what happened to Kestral Insights? They were here last
Yeah.
year. What happened?
Yeah.
And so I think you have to really think twice before you go into that route. But certainly attending and maybe sponsoring to get your name out there is the way to go. And that networking is so powerful. I mean, Manifest was great. What events are you going to be going to here in the spring, summer, maybe even thinking about the fall?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a good question. I don't even know. I don't think we're booked on any right now. Our spring was slammed, so we were kind of looking at midsummer and fall, getting lined up for a few. So we typically pull the trigger a little late because we kind of like to see who's going, and we're pinging customers,
Which is
pinging
nice
prospective
when you're not
customers.
exhibiting. You've got
Yeah,
flexibility, right?
you
I mean,
got some
that's nice.
flexibility. So yeah, absolutely. So that's kind of what we're looking at right now is summer and into the fall. But yeah, they've always been great. And I think the Shark Tank thing was huge. Like the chance for me to get on stage and talk was incredible. So trying to find ways where you can do things like that, or even if there's panels you can even sit in on and just be like, hey, I know this is
Yeah.
a veteran panel or something, but would you like a startup perspective, or I can kind of voice some things I'm dealing with, just to get your name out there so people see, hey,
Yeah.
this guy's legit, or you can talk to me. And I'm up here in Montana. I'm not in Chattanooga or Freight Alley or something where people are always coming through. So it's good to get out and show people that, hey, we're real. We're not just out here in the bush. So yeah,
Yeah.
they're very helpful.
And sometimes you just have to ask, if you don't ask, it's definitely a no. But if you ask, you might get a yes, which
Yeah,
is really
you never
important right
know.
now. So yeah. Speaking of asking, how can people find out about you and connect with you?
Thanks. Yeah. So you can find us online, kestralinsights.com, or find us on LinkedIn. Super responsive on there. You'll come right to me if you ping any of our contact forms or things like that. They usually get filtered down to me at some point. So find us on there. And if you've got any questions, we get all kinds of crazy use cases, and we found for our geofences. So we'd love to help you out.
Love it. Well, Lucas, thanks for being on the show today. Always good to talk to you, and hopefully we'll get you back on here real soon.
Cool. Thanks for having me.
All right, see you, man. All right, everybody. Well, listen, hey, this has been a great show. And again, make sure you follow Lucas online, whether it be on LinkedIn or wherever else they are online. Get connected with him, find out what he does, because it's probably going to help you out or maybe help your customer out. And it's good for you to know about that. Also, as a reminder, make sure you come back tomorrow, noon Central, for Word on the Street, the Ladies' Day edition of Word on the Street. Is going to be absolutely awesome. Until then, we'll see you next time. Next show Tuesday on the coming up here next week is our next episode of Standing Out. So we'll see you guys real soon. Take care. Talk to you soon.